On today's show, we are joined by Bobby Blanco from MASNsports.com, and we're going to be getting into Dylan Cruz launching his first career MLB home run last night against the Yankees, but also how bright is his future with James Wood and Dylan Cruz.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals and wherever you get your podcasts as well, whether it's Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get it. Just search Locked On Nationals and hit that subscriber button there. Today, we are joined by Bobby Blanco from MASNsports.com, covers the Washington Nationals for MASN Sports. You can catch Bobby over on Twitter at Bobby_Blanco. But before we get into it, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. So speaking of game time, let's get into it with Bobby Blanco. First and foremost, how we doing, Bobby?
It's podcast time.
Podcast time. It is
game time, not podcast time. It's Dylan Cruz time. That's what time it is. Good morning. I just tell you how tired I was, and now I'm like all fired up.
You just had some coffee as you're sipping it right here, right now. But the only cup of coffee
in your mug.
Oh, yeah. See you later. I didn't even notice that before that, so that's actually pretty cool. But I don't know about you, Bobby. You need your cup of coffee right then and there. My cup of coffee was last night with Dylan Cruz hitting that leadoff home run. I mean, just how special was that? Going up against the New York Yankees, like, after the first game, I'm not going to lie, like, I was kind of getting in my own head a little bit, just thinking, like, what if Dylan Cruz is kind of just overwhelmed playing against the Yankees? Stupid. Because his second game, multi-hit game, yesterday, I mean, he's hit the ball to the wall, 3 of his 4 extra base hits. It's absurd what he is doing. And then, of course, the leadoff home run in yesterday's game. Dylan Cruz is here, man. It's so nice.
Yeah, don't get too in your head about it, Ryan, especially after one game. I mean, we talked so much about this guy over the past year plus since he was drafted. I just think, and I think I mentioned this maybe last time we were on, and I was we were trying to predict his debut, which I will say I think we both got right.
Yeah,
I think like this week of the last week of August, I think we both kind of said earlier in the year too that was like that looks like the right date for Dylan. But yeah, no, I mean, like, how exciting was this whole week? I mean, you get the debut on Monday against the Yankees, and the whole thing is against the Yankees.
Yeah.
At home. And so Nats Park is packed. Yes, half of it's Yankees fans, but that's fine. That's going to happen regardless, even if you're a first-place team or a last-place team. The debut doesn't go as well as production-wise, at least. He draws a walk, but doesn't collect a hit. But that's okay. The excitement was still there just to see him play. And then the back-to-back multi-hit games, like you just mentioned, the double, a bullet off the base of the wall on Tuesday, and then last night, the home run that almost cleared the visitors' bullpen. Another double that was a bullet to the wall. Just, I mean, he is everything that he's been hyped up to be over these first 3 games. Of course, it's only 3 games. We saw Wyatt Langford do the same thing earlier this year and then really struggle. I don't really foresee Dylan doing that over these last month of the season. I just think that the Nats' patience with him is going to pay off like it did with James Wood. And I also just think Dylan is just built for moments like this. You mentioned it being too big for him. I just don't think that's the case. I mean, for anyone who didn't watch him or who only started watching him after the draft, like, you go back to his days at LSU, I mean, he was the Golden Spikes Award winner for a reason. I mean, he was the best player in college baseball, but you don't become the best player in college baseball at one of the top programs in the best conference by just being a quiet, go about your business type dude. I mean, we saw him show up in the College World Series and then elevate his game to reach Double-A within the first couple of weeks of being a professional, and then we saw him get to Triple-A this year. Now, I mean, I just think this guy is built with a spotlight. he gives me young Bryce Harper vibes. Just because he gets up, he's more vocal and more. I shouldn't say energetic because James and CJ are energetic for sure, but like he's just more vocal and expressive, I guess is the right word, than James and CJ are. And I think it's a breath of fresh air. Not that there's anything wrong with how James and CJ are, but it's just different. It's just different, and it feels different. And I think it makes it a little more exciting.
Like Bobby, this is kind of something that I was talking about with a buddy yesterday. Like with one thing that has really kind of stood out with Dylan Cruz, and one of my friends isn't really like a big baseball fan, so he's kind of like, what's so special about this guy? Like what makes him a top prospect? And I was just kind of sitting there like, well, and I was thinking about this. He doesn't really have like an elite trait. Like there's not like one thing with CJ Abrams, his speed and really his versatility out there. That's kind of what is elite about him. James Wood, his raw power, 70 grade power. The guy can put it 450 feet, 113 miles per hour off the bat. He can do it at any given moment. But with Dylan Cruz, I was kind of thinking about this, and I'm like, well, he doesn't really have like a special trait. But here's the thing. He's really good at just about everything. You saw it the other night, 94 miles per hour when he gunned or almost threw him out at the plate in his debut. You saw it the other night at the plate. His plate discipline has been really good as well, at least through his first 3 games. His hit tool is obviously very well renowned. If you were to pick an elite tool, I guess you could probably say it's his hit tool. His power is really good as well. A lot more power than really what I've expected. And you haven't really seen that over the course of the minors so far, but I think the Nationals and their fans, including people who cover the team, the people who root for them, whatever it is, you've gotten a taste of all of it so far. The guy is a flat-out hitter. You've seen that. We can now understand, like, this is why Dylan Cruz was a top draft pick. Maybe he's not the likes of Paul Skeens, because when we took Dylan Cruz, I wanted Dylan Cruz over Paul Skeens. Now I look back at that and I'm like, okay, that's a little silly. Paul Skeens in a world of his own at this point. But now I kind of understand why we were so excited about this. His ceiling isn't really like crazy high, but his floor is so high. Like, if you understand what I'm trying to say here, like he is going to be a very good MLB player. And I think the Nationals and their fans, you've already gotten to see why that is the case, because he is so good at every little thing. You put him in right field, he's going to be good defensively. At the plate, he's going to put the ball in play. He's going to hit for some power. He's got a good arm. He can run the bases. He can steal bags. He can do everything very well. And I think that is what separates him from other prospects around Major League Baseball. And that is why you still see him kind of out there just doing his damn thing. So seeing that on display over the first 3 games, I think has been a huge deal for Davey Martinez, Mike Rizzo, the Nationals, and as well as his fan base, because some people were looking at his numbers being like, I don't know if this guy is going to be the real deal going forward. But now we see why. Once you get him in a lineup with James Wood and CJ Abrams and all the other young National stars, you see why the Nationals took him at number 2.
Yeah, and I had this conversation when you had me on the radio program, G&D, earlier this week. And, I think it was Danny that asked kind of a similar question, or just brought it up, that like, he doesn't do everything great, but he does everything pretty well. And I think that's a perfect way to describe it. Like, I think I said he's like, he does everything at a B. If we're doing like a normal like grade school grading scale, he does everything like at a B level with the potential of being like an A at everything. Because he's just starting his major league career. You look at his scouting grades via MLB Pipeline on a 20/80 scale. He is above average in pretty much and everything. He's a 60 in hit, power, run, overall 60. And then the arm and field are 55s, but we just saw him, on Monday, maybe a little first game jitters. He has the arm strength to play right field or in the corner outfields. He threw a bullet to center field. Now it was to home plate. Now it was a little up the line, so wasn't on target, didn't get the out. But we see the arm strength there. I think it's easier to teach direction than natural strength. So he's got that. And then the fielding, I mean, I go back to Tuesday night's game in the 9th inning when he made that catch in the 9th on that shallow pop fly in foul territory in right field at Nats Park, where that little angle sticks out. And we've seen guys who've played that right field position, really, Bryce Harper, Juan Soto, Lane Thomas. I mean, some legit defenders sometimes struggle with that little corner. His second game playing out there, he played it perfectly. Made the catch, and then also made the spin and turn and was ready because there were guys on base. Made the spin and was ready to throw back into the infield in case someone tried to tag up and kept them from tagging up. So I think, as he continues to get closer to his prospect graduation, and maybe MLB Pipeline, maybe Baseball America updates these graphics, we're going to see him be pretty much like 60 across the board. And to me, that's being pretty good. Or no, I'll say better than that. I'll say like very good at everything with the potential of being great at everything. And so I just think that he's as close as we're going to get in this day and age to a complete ball player.
And I think that is the perfect way to kind of sum up Dylan Cruz. And fortunately for us, Bobby, it's not just Dylan Cruz. We got to talk about the future of Dylan Cruz and James Wood, because my God, man, James Wood is on a tear. And I mean, you cover the Orioles as well for MASN Sports at times. You cover Jackson Holliday, who was the number one prospect in all of baseball. You've seen him struggle a lot so far, really over the last few weeks here. But James Wood, he has not been struggling. So that is an exciting factor in this equation here. So let's kind of get into James Wood and Dylan Cruz in the second segment and just the future of that. We can gush over it. But before we get into it, I'm going to tell you guys about our friends over at Liquid IV. And I can tell you this, when Bobby and we are taking in Nationals baseball, I don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV. You can get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America, because baseball and summer go together like Liquid IV and indulgent hydration. And of course, when I go up to Nationals Park, just like I did a few nights ago, I had my Liquid IV pouch, my popsicle firecracker flavor, which is a surefire summer hit, by the way. I poured that in my cup of water. I stirred it up. I was hydrated right before going into the game. I stayed hydrated for the entire game. And of course, it also tasted so good. And I love my sports drinks to taste good, just like you as well. So there are no more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. Now, let me tell you guys about our friends over at Game Time. And you guys have heard us talk about Game Time and why I use it, but let me tell you a little bit more, because Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on a great seat, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And of course, Game Time's 50% off Labor Day offer for the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers series is on the next homestand for them. So if you're over in Arizona or LA, you want to get 50% off your tickets. And of course, you can get the super deal. There's curated deals that make it easier to find the best price on great seats, and the lowest price is always guaranteed. They also have event cancellation protection, job loss protection as well. And of course, Game Time is simply the best. So all you have to do is take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Now we get back into it with Bobby Blanco from MASNsports.com. So as we were saying, Dylan Cruz so far in the bigs, it's been 3 games. We're not going to make too much of it. But with that said, James Wood, on the other hand, Bobby, I'm sure you're familiar with what James Wood has been doing over the last few months here, really over the last 30 games here. And I have his splits up right now. Over his last 30 games, he's batting .340. He's got a .449 OBP and a .538 slug. I saw MLB Network put out a graphic the other day, and of course, I just had it on my phone. I actually just lost it, but he was up there with like Aaron Judge with how hot he has been recently. Now, nobody is hotter than Aaron Judge right now, but there is a 21-year-old up there, and the name is James Wood, and he is in the same conversation as Aaron Judge. So What has it been like covering James Wood so far? What has it been like watching him on a daily basis? And what have you seen from the 21-year-old kid?
Well, first off, with Aaron Judge being the hottest hitter on the planet right now, I think the Nats pitching staff had something to say about that earlier.
That's true.
And yeah, I mean, you mentioned those numbers over this past 30 games for James, and that includes him going like 0 for, what's that, like 13 over a 3-game stretch. Like he had a hitless 3-game stretch. Oh no, poor James. He's gonna be completely fine. He's just different. I try not to draw too many comparisons. He's not gonna be Aaron Judge.
No.
Him and Aaron Judge are the same height. I don't think you were up in the press box at this time when I told this to our pals Grant Paulson and Toby Altizer, and Derek Cameron was there too. James Wood and Aaron Judge are the same height. Aaron Judge is 50 pounds heavier than James. Yeah. So that's ridiculous, first of all. That's an insane amount to be the same height as someone and basically be able to do the same things. But James is not going to be – I don't think he's ever going to be the guy that's going to hit 60 home runs.
No.
That's okay. No, only Aaron Judge is. But what I'm really impressed by with James, and I think the comparison can be drawn, is the batter's eye in the Bucks. There have been a lot being said about how Aaron Judge has basically adjusted to his own strike zone because he's so big. And I bring up their height, their similarities, because James is the same height, and I think we're seeing him have to deal with some of the same things that Aaron had to deal with earlier in his career, where umpires are not quite used to his height, so the strike zone's a little different. And I said this also on the radio with you guys the other day. It's like I think James has the eye of an Aaron Judge, of a Juan Soto. He knows his strike zone. He knows what he's looking for. I've been very impressed with how he's been getting pinched at times, maybe because of his size, maybe because he's just a rookie. I mean, it happened to Juan Soto. Juan Soto's, a typically sized baseball player, and he got pinched a lot early in his career too. So it might just be because he's a rookie. He's not getting the benefit of the doubt. But he should be, because his eye is very good. And I'm getting to the point. I probably won't be at that point this year. Let's let him finish with, they've got another 20-ish games, 70, 75 games on his ledger, and then we'll see. But I'm getting to the point where, like Juan Soto, if James doesn't swing at it, it's probably not a strike.
And I think that's fair, honestly, Bobby.
Yeah.
Like, because he has earned that right up to this point.
Yeah.
Like James Wood, that is like one thing that, going back from last year and kind of what I saw and what I've heard a lot from Double-A in times where he was in High A as well, was that like he's got to work a little bit on his pitch selection. And you have seen that this year. Now, he's not drawing walks at like some insane rate, but he certainly is not doing that at this point.
Well, he certainly cut down the strikeouts. I think
he's cut down the strikeouts.
That's the big issue. It's like, exactly. How many times you walk, as long as the strikeouts are coming down.
Yeah, and so he has cut that down, and now you see it paired up with Dylan Cruz as well with this. I mean, in last night's lineup, you had Dylan Cruz leading off, and you have James Wood batting second. And I know I'm going to kind of shift the conversation here just a little bit, but I love that. Like, these two guys should be next to each other at all times. Yeah. They should be going to the bathroom with each other. They should be throwing with each other every day. They should be batting next to each other. And BP, they should be in the same group. They should be doing every little thing together, because, in my opinion, the way that this lineup should be, you look at Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. They're not Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. I'm not saying that. But the way that you stack them can, number one, have protection for both those guys. And you're going to have to make the pitcher think about, which one am I going to pitch to? And also in this equation as well, when you have a healthy CJ Abrams, when you have a on fire CJ Abrams, not in like this crazy slump that he has been over the last month or so, then you have to make a lot of decisions there and really put a ton of pressure on a pitcher to say, who am I going to pitch to? Because any three of these guys, they can make an impact on me. So I love the lineup that has been going out there recently when you have Cruz and Wood. And of course, when Abrams is in the lineup as well, I would like to think he would be in that leadoff spot. And then it's followed by Cruz and or Wood. And then whoever is left thereafter, you have them right behind him. So I don't know what the deal will be going forward, but James Wood and Dylan Cruz, they should always be paired next to each other in the lineup, no matter what.
Well, Davey already said that Dylan is going to be back in the leadoff spot on Friday. Against the Cubs. They're facing Shota Imanaga, who's a left-hander. So, yes, I don't think they're going to sit C.J. Abrams 3 days straight because they're off today.
Yep.
So, logic would be Dylan leading off, C.J. James back-to-back. I guess facing left-hander, maybe Davey will want to break up those two lefties. So, it'll be Dylan, C.J., maybe Chaparro. Wait, is Chaparro righty? Tenna maybe, yeah. and then James at fourth. But the point still stands. Those three guys are gonna be your top of the lineup guys for the long term, right? Like in the next couple of years. Like I think we even get to a point where it doesn't matter who they're facing, lefty or righty. You can probably just go Dylan, CJ, James, CJ, Dylan, James, whatever it is. Those three guys are going to, in some way or another, are going to be your top three guys in this lineup. And you know what? I think, and Dave tried to do this before Dylan got up here with Alex Call. Maybe Dylan hitting leadoff is going to be good for CJ. And hopefully help him finish the season strong, have a good September, because he needs it. The team needs him to finish strong. I think we're talking about a completely different season if he continues to slump through the next month for Abrams. But if Dylan, we saw what he did last night in the leadoff spot. If Dylan can do that ahead of CJ Abrams, CJ's going to see a lot more fastballs. And he hits the fastball well. It's been the breaking balls that he's been struggling with. And I think that helps him kind of kickstart his season. And then you get James, the power bat. Maybe James is driving in 2-3 runs a night, and that's just chef's kiss right there for any Nationals fan.
Exactly, that is a huge thing. And of course, kind of getting into the lineup here, I do have someone that I do want to talk about who you mentioned in this last answer, Bobby. That we don't really. We do talk about him because he's relatively fresh in the area and with the Nationals, but Jose Tena. The kid's got a future, in my opinion, Bobby. So let's kind of get into more of that and kind of what I'm thinking, see what you're thinking as well about this entire situation with Jose Tena. Not situation. You know what I'm saying, though. But Now let's tell you guys, before we get into it, about our friends over at PrizePicks. And of course, PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. And of course, PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and of course, my home state, Virginia. All you have to do is download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Now we get back into it with Bobby Blanco from MASNsports.com. Bobby, we just raved about Dylan Cruz. We raved about James Wood. But I think someone who might be a little bit lost in the shuffle, there's a couple different guys. Luis Garcia has been hitting well here over the last month, obviously. But the 23-year-old Jose Tena. Now, while he's not putting up ridiculous numbers, but he is putting up really solid production for someone who just got traded over here, and also considering the fact that he's not even the main prospect of that trade. I would say he was like the second best prospect in that trade behind Alex Clemmy, but Jose Tena is now putting up pretty decent numbers at the major league level through 55 at-bats this season. He's batting 309. He's got a couple of home runs with the Nats, and he's got a 769 OPS with us. Jose Tena is putting up some really solid numbers here. What do you kind of make of so far of the lefty over at third base?
I think he's been exactly what the Nats said he was. And, sometimes that's difficult for a team to proclaim this young player as this person. Okay, sure, we'll see. And then they don't really pan out. I mean,
Yeah.
Alex Clemmy was the highlight of that trade. I would even say maybe Jose Tena was like the third add-on because he did have a little bit of major league experience. He to me, and I don't mean this is a shot to him, but to me, he felt like, oh, he's like the fringe major leaguer that the national, well, kind of like how, very different, but like kind of like how Josh Bell was thrown into the Juan Soto deal.
Yep.
And they got Luke Voigt back because they needed help in the major league level. I think Tena, you could argue that he was thrown in because Mike Rizzo was like, well, if I'm giving up Lane Thomas, I'm going to need someone back who can help me at the major league level, possibly at this point this year. So I think you could argue that Clemmy and Rafael Ramirez Jr. were probably the two top prospects, actual prospects in that trade. But Tena, I mean, when he came over, they said, this guy can hit. Everyone we talked to said he can put the bat on the ball. And he's just a great hitter. We'll work on him defensively, and he'll get better. And that's all come true. I mean, you got to give the Nationals one scouting department to identify this guy in the Cleveland system, the credit for finding him. Two, Mike Rizzo for being like, I want this guy included. And then three, Davey and his coaching staff for coaching him up because he has been better defensively. He struggled when he first got here. Maybe jitters with a new team, meeting new guys, playing with new guys. He doesn't speak a lot of English, so I think it does help that C.J. Abrams speaks Spanish, and obviously so does Luis Garcia Jr. So that's helped, but he can't really communicate with everybody in the locker room. But the one thing that stuck out to me is just the bat. The bat is what the Nationals said it was. I mean, if you look at some of his, I know he's only hitting 309 right now, which is impressive. But if you look at some of the metrics, I mean, he is in the almost 94th percentile in average exit velocity. He's in like the upper range in all of this stuff. Expanded WOBA, expected batting average, expected slugging, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage, whiff rate, squared up rate. Like he's got an eye and he can hit. He's 5'11", he's not even 200 pounds. And he is
his exit velos are crazy so far. Yeah.
So I just think that they found a diamond in the rough right here. And is he part of the long-term plan? I don't know. Remains to be seen. They've got a guy at AAA named Brady House who can play third base and has some pretty strong exit velos as well. But, I mean, he's at least some depth right there. And he's filling the role right now. I mean, he's their best third baseman on the roster.
And it's not even close, really.
And you know what? Not to take too much attention away from Tena, but he's playing so well. Maybe we don't see Brady House up this year. Maybe there's no need to rush him.
That's
September.
And I think that is kind of what I was ultimately getting. I talked about that on yesterday's show, I believe, I want to say. And I was kind of like, I don't see the Nationals rushing up Brady House if he's not like doing terribly at AAA, but he's not like killing the baseball.
Right.
Like, a few weeks ago, I would have thought like, oh yeah, Brady House will be up for a few weeks in September, see what he can do up in the bigs. But with the way that Tena is playing, I mean, you've got a lot of cooks in the kitchen right now over at third base. You've got Trey Lipscomb, you've got Brady House, and now you have Jose Tena. But at this point in time, I don't know what the Nationals will do with him. But one thing that has stuck out with me is that Jose Tena is like, I want to see more of this guy. Yeah. And where the Nationals are sitting here today for the rest of 2024, that's really the only open spot. Like, you're not going to be benching Jacob Young. The guy's going to be a Gold Glover in center field. Dylan Cruz and James Wood, they've locked up the corner outfield positions for the rest of the year, in my opinion. They will not be moved off of, obviously, at this point. And Luis Garcia Jr. is going to be your second baseman. Barring any injuries, I mean, Jose Tena should be getting every opportunity out there to, number one, because he's deserved it up to this point. And number two, we need to see more of this guy. And also kind of getting into it, looking down the future, Bobby, we kind of are wrapping up here. I know I'm up against the clock, so sorry, managers out there. I'm sorry, but Jose Tena, in my opinion, like, try him in left field eventually. See what the guy can do out in left. Because from what we have seen with the metrics, what we have seen down in AAA, even with the Guardians. And also I talked with some people who cover the Guardians, and they were actually very surprisingly high on him. There are some tweaks in his swing that should be corrected eventually. And you can make the case that it already is at this point. But I need to see more of Jose Tena, Bobby. That's just all I want to say. And that is why if you're watching over on YouTube and you see the future of the Nats look bright, I think Jose Tena at this point in time, I'm not saying he's part of the future plan, but he can certainly be part of that vision. And who knows what will happen. He's 23 years old. The guy has shown a ton so far in his limited time with the Nats. So I'm excited about the Nats' future, Bobby. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, looking now quickly at his baseball reference page, doesn't look like he has any outfield experience, so that might be a little bit of a tricky thing for them to pull off, especially this late. Maybe going into next year, that's something they can.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, go down to Florida, see what he can do in the offseason, just take fly balls every single day, take 100, 500, 1,000, whatever it is, try something, because you're going to want to see this guy in the lineup every single day. Eventually, maybe if he continues at this rate, but I'm intrigued by Jose Tena, man. And
he can also be a trade chip.
He can also be a trade chip too. I mean, he could be.
I don't want to say you're just getting him to flip him, but if Brady House is who we expect him to be, there's not a place for a guy like Jose Tena on the roster. And so maybe he has the good metrics and you are able to flip him for somebody else.
Yeah. Starting pitching,
first baseman, whatever it may be,
Exactly.
I need to see more of, I agree with everything you said. Everyone needs to play. I need to see more of Jose, CJ. Heck, even give Nas a couple of runs like he did last night when CJ needs a breather. And Luis Garcia. This is not a dig, but I do not need to see Ildemar Vargas play anymore this year.
I don't. I love him. I know he's a team leader. You've seen here in the clubhouse.
That team. He's very important to that clubhouse. He is a great guy. He's a pretty solid ball player as well.
Yeah.
He's just not the part of the long-term plan right now. We got a month left. I need to see Luis Garcia take as many at-bats as possible, especially against left-handers.
Yeah.
I need to see if he needs a breather, then throw Nasim Nunez over at second base. If CJ needs a breather, throw Nasim over there. Jose Tena. See if Jose can play second base a little bit.
Yeah. Then with Nasim Nunez, he is like kind of low-key been putting up not like great numbers at the plate recently, but like not
it's
bad.
Hard because he plays so infrequently.
Exactly.
He got his first RBI the other night or last night.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he plays so infrequently, it's hard to tell if he's actually going well at the plate because
he
plays every 3 weeks.
So I mean, he'll probably start the year down in AAA. I'd admit, I don't know, going into next year with the Rule 5. Yeah, they're not going to do anything.
To option him, they're just going to wait it out.
Exactly. So just like they did last year with, I'm blanking on his name now, but Thaddeus Ward. And so that's probably what will happen going into next year. But recently, I mean, again, it's been inconsistent at bats, but he's been looking decent. The future's looking bright here, Bobby. But Bobby, always appreciate the time. Thank you.
Yeah, anytime, Ryan. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Bobby Blanco from MASNsports.com. You can read his work at, again, MASNsports.com, and catch him over on Twitter at Bobby_Blanco. We will catch you guys on the flip side. Enjoy the night off of Nationals baseball, and don't forget, the future is bright.